they are acclimatized to this condition. They are very resilient, and we use them to improve on their production. Previously, our ancestors were looking at a conservation or breeding program, not focused on commercial lines. They could look at animals which were very agile, beautiful animals, and not necessarily productive. But we are conserving and at the same time improving our indigenous breeds. And I think in this area we can also assist. The other area where we can assist, as mentioned earlier, is that Uganda, much of Uganda's land is arable. We can send a lot of feeds here, and I think the way the presidents want it is going to work. We can avail cheap feeds here in partnership with Botswana. As we buy vaccine from here, you can also get feeds from Uganda.
Right.
The other area is the dairy sector. Our dairy sector is developed. Our production, milk production, is now standing at 3.5 billion liters annually. Oh. And we have about 160 medium and large processing plants. We export milk to Europe, we export milk to Asia, we also export casein to US. So in this regard, we can avail dairy products here at a reasonable cost. Here, the industry mainly here is beef, and ours is both dairy and beef.
That's incredible. And now we understand foot and mouth is one concern for your government, and it so happens that Botswana has done well for herself to establish an effective and robust health system that has allowed her to gain control over this FMD. What sort of collaboration are you looking forward for to do in terms of disease diagnosis and effectively controlling it?
Well, FMD is a transboundary animal disease. And it is prevalent in clothed-hoofed animals, and we have game parks. In the game parks and the game reserves, we have these clothed animals, like buffaloes, and they also suffer from FMD. So while in Uganda we have been vaccinating strategically, by focusing on affected areas, high-risk areas, and transit routes, we have not been able to eliminate FMD like we did here, simply because of our transboundary farming of communities. The colonial borders were not based on rational boundaries. You find a tribe is in both this country and the other country, and it's very difficult to control on the border, especially when you don't harmonize the disease control policies. But as a government, we have taken a decision following our president's meeting in Kampala that we must buy vaccine from Botswana and vaccinate every susceptible animal to make sure that we vaccinate twice a year and make sure that we don't have FMD. Yes.
All right, that's incredible. If you've just joined us, remember I'm in a conversation here with Uganda's Minister of State for Animal Industry, Mr. Bright RAMIRWAMA. He joins us here to give us an insight on the 3-day official visit here in this country, looking at the agricultural sector. Now, going forward, both Botswana and Uganda have become a booming beef industry, as we've already mentioned. But what are the areas of cooperation with the sector that could help both countries to meet export expectations?
Thank you very much. That's a very good question. In Botswana, you have about 1.7 heads of cattle. That's not a big number. In Uganda, we have 14 million, 0.7 heads of cattle.
14 million?
14 million.
Wow.
We have 17.4 million goats. I've got about 500 sheep. We've got about 8 million pigs. So now that we are working together in many areas, we can capture one niche and get export quota and fulfill it together. I'm quite sure working together we can make critical numbers to satisfy any lucrative market in the world.
Right. Now, one of the areas your country has done well also is, which Botswana is still working on, is developing apiculture. What would you advise be for a commercially viable sector?
I think the government of Botswana needs to identify apiculture as one of the enterprises that is promoted by the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, which is mandated for apiculture and entomology. And once you establish apiculture as a commercial enterprise, then government appropriates resources to support the farmers, to regulate, to make sure they have the quality of the honey for export purposes and local consumption. In this regard, Botswana is has a very wide area than Uganda, and in my view, you have a lot of areas which are conservation areas. In these conservation areas, you can do apiculture and concentrate on organic honey, because Africa is now considered a safe continent. We are not seriously polluted like many parts of the world. So there's a lot of potential, and I think this is an area we have also worked very well. We have forests in Uganda, and we have been working with the Ministry of Wildlife and Tourism to make sure that we do partnership, especially in mountainous areas and forest reserves, to make sure that we do apiary around those areas. And apiary is one of the 10 enterprises we are pushing for the local farmers.
All right. Now, earlier on you mentioned something about, buying medicine from this country to Uganda. What kind of partnership are you willing to be working on in terms of, that in that regard? Are you willing to also maybe establish your own? What kind of partnerships is it that you are going to be doing in that regard?
You see, this is what has killed Africa. Africans, we need to work together.
Yeah.
Now that you have a vaccine plant, we don't need to establish another vaccine plant because they will not be economically viable.
All right.
All we need is to make sure we support you to buy the vaccine, and also you get what we do better, so that we get a symbiotic relationship where both of us can benefit from working together. We are not going to put up a vaccine for another vaccine plant here and every country to have a vaccine. People are going to the moon, people are going are living in the sea. We need to do things differently, and I think our heads of states have made a statement as ministers on policy and technical people. We have to follow. This is the way to go. If you have a vaccine here, it does not make economic sense to have another 10 vaccines in the region. Yeah. That's waste of resources.
All right, that's incredible. I like the saying that you just said, that we don't have to compete. By the way, we have to complement each other. Exactly. And if you are having something, maybe we go there and buy milk as you come here and buy vaccine. That's how we grow the economy. Now, as we end our conversation, we know while here you had a chance to appreciate some of the facilities in the animal production sector. What would you say is your impression so far?
I was very impressed by the laboratories. And I want to thank the leadership of this country for that investment. Actually, I think this is something we are going to take home, because you have to water the tree in order to enjoy the fruit. And I think your government has invested heavily in veterinary infrastructure. The second one is the abattoir. Your abattoir is state-of-art. Is better than many international abattoirs I've visited outside Africa. So I think the other important thing is the human resource. I think the cadreship in in veterinary services is very good. And we have discussed many issues with openness, and I think it's going to benefit both of us in the long run.
Right. Maybe your last words as we wrap up our conversation. We have seen the memorandum of understanding that has been signed and everything that you have been exposed to in this country. What does the future looks like for both countries?
Well, the future looks bright, and if we establish a joint permanent commission, I think it will take us very far. We stand to benefit a lot from each other. I want to tell you that for a long time people think exporting to Europe is very, very important. That's not the issue. Actually, trading among African countries is more profitable, because a steak in Congo is almost $15, and I don't think you can get $15 when you export to Europe. And yet our African people, I don't know whether you have heard rumors that some countries people are eating monkeys, because they are not eating monkeys because there's plenty of meat. They are eating monkeys because there's no meat. So we need to get out of the box and look at our African brothers and trade between ourselves. And I was discussing this afternoon with your ministry officials. I think we need to look outside the box and explore opportunities in Africa. In the dairy, for instance, Uganda, we are very developed in the dairy sector. We have powdered milk. We have all sorts of milk, long shelf life, and liquid milk. So we could benefit from each other. We need to trade. I know you buy milk from different places. Our brothers are buying meat from Europe, and yet with open transport infrastructure around us, it takes 2 hours from one country to another. But buying food from Europe, really, in my view, is very shameful. So, likewise, Uganda, we are endowed with tea. We produce a lot of tea.
Right.
We produce a lot of coffee. We are the second largest producer of coffee in Uganda, and exporter, in Africa, and we are #1 exporter in Africa. The difference there is that we don't take a lot of coffee. Ethiopia produces slightly more than ourselves, but they drink much of their coffee. And Uganda, we produce a lot of coffee, but drink less of it. Ugandan people take tea most of the time. So we have tea, we have cocoa. We have a lot of opportunities. There are things you can get from here and things you can get from us. And I think I want to thank the president of this country and our president for actually emphasizing that this has to happen. And everybody, since we started in our 3 days visit, everybody is very happy. Morale is high.
All right, that's incredible. And I believe with the AFCFTA that has been established, that's going to be very simple to trade within us as Africans and make sure that we grow the economy and even improve the lives of our people. Thank you so much, Minister, for your time.
And Thank you.
All right.
Good evening, viewers.
And that is how we come to the end of our conversation. I had in studio with me the Uganda's Minister of State for Animal Industry, Mr. Bright Ramira, joined us here to reflect on the outcomes of the meeting and takeaways from the 3 days visit in this country. Don't move, I'm coming right back after this.
Your efforts and commitment to enhance Botswana's engagement with institutions and authorities in your duty stations remains the pillar on which we can strengthen Botswana's competitiveness and attractiveness for government and the private sector collaboration. Bilateral relations with neighboring countries